guys, and welcome back to the analysis episode of Rebuilding Wimbledon. If you do enjoy these, of course, drop a like. It lets me know that you want me to keep doing them, but I will probably do that anyway, just because I actually find them very, very useful. So we're going to go through the player stats first, of course, look at the teams, and then start to look at our individual stats and sort of see where we need to strengthen, although I think I've got a pretty good idea of what we need to do anyway. So games one, it's going to be all Arsenal players, although Alessandro Salvi has won 24, Gomez in there as well with 24. Games lost is not that important, really. Yellow cards, we probably will have someone like Farmer up there with 11, but look at that, Azpilicueta, 17 yellow cards. Most red cards, I don't think we've had any player get more than one red card this year, which is nice. Player of the Match awards, Fabio and Masek now with, look at that, 8 and a 7. Baltam's in there too, and Salvi, always nice. Distance cover per 90 minutes is kind of more where we're interested in him, but I didn't expect... Oh, actually, Isla. He does get through a fair bit of running, interestingly, when he's in the team. Average rating, we dropped off the top 3 there, but we've actually got 3 of the top 7 with Fabio, Salvi, and Baltam, all exceeding our biggest ever in terms of their stats, so that's not bad either. Goals, Fabio with 31 goals in 33 or 34 league appearances, which is astonishing, although I have to say Alcacer got 28 in just 22, so very, very solid from him. Average minutes per goal, weirdly Alcacer is not on there, which is odd. Maybe he didn't play enough games, but yeah, Fabio does have the best record on that one if you count it. Shots on target, Philip Isla's done very, very well and actually ties with Christian Puselic on that one. Team goals, obviously Arsenal will lead the way on that one, but Alessandro Salvi has been involved in 70, or been on the team during 70, as has Brian Gomez. Penalties, we shouldn't be anywhere near that one because we've been woeful from penalties this year. Assists, Alessandro Salvi, 16 assists in 34 games is very, very good. I don't think anyone can even come close to that. Key passes, Carlos with 199, Salvi 198, Baltam 183, Fabio up there, Masek, lots of players with lots of key passes. Pass completion, the highest is Achibar with 83, Farmer with 83 as well, and Masek with 82, which is nice to see. Cross completion ratio is, interestingly, no one on there at all this one, which is interesting, but look at that, some of those are very, very high. Dribbles per game, look at that, Tagu is great. Salvi with a 5.5, Isla with... That's what I like to see from my wingers, it really is. Team conceded the least. Planic, interestingly, only conceded 23 times when he started, but he started 24 matches, so... Whereas Isla, I don't know, like some of the other players like Manquillo played more games, I think, and Anderson, I don't know actually. Still, it's interesting to see that we conceded a lot less goals when Planic was playing. Tackles per game, hopefully we'll have some players on there. Manquillo and Farmer, nice to see them up there as well. Mistakes leading to goals, hopefully we have no one on this list at all. Interesting that Brendan Galloway gave away 5 goals from mistakes. That's interesting, really interesting actually. Mistakes overall, Bailey Cargill of Blackburn up there. Brian Gomez, 74 mistakes. He still is a bit mistake prone, which is a pain. Key tackles, he should be right up there though. Brian Gomez with 33, Mark Anderson with 33 as well. Key headers, Brian Gomez is in there as well with 94, but look at that, 157 key headers. But then again, playing for a team like Blackburn, I suppose that is bound to be the case. Brian Gomez right up there on interceptions though, which is good. Zizza, this is a guy that I was really, really interested in. And I might, to be honest, go after him in the... or was it? I don't actually know. I feel like I've seen this guy before, though. I swear I have. Maybe it was someone else called Zizza, but I swear that I might go after that guy anyway, though, just to try and strengthen the back line up a little bit, if we can do, particularly as Villa are being relegated, I think. Where did they finish? Oh, they finished 17th. Damn it, they didn't go down. If they'd have gone down, we might have been able to get him. Anyway. Assists. No, where were we? Right, so we're on to... Here we go. Headers 1 ratio. Look at that. Sula. Gomez, though, with 88 is very, very nice. Conceded, only 26 goals conceded for Oblak. 31 for Gafrascoli, though, is very, very good overall. Clean sheets, 15. Could do with a few more of those. Saves held, quite low, actually, at 53. And saves parried, 42. So there we go. That's the team stats. Let's take a look at the team ones now, rather. So average possession, we are miles clear, more than 2% more than anyone else. Penalties, we actually only had 1 penalty all season in the league, which is annoying. Headers 1, wow, we are right down at the bottom of that one. Look at that. Headers 1 ratio, much higher, which is nice. Yellow cards, still a lot better than it was. We were into the 90s before with 61. Red cards, not a single red card in the league. That is more like it, folks. Those are streaks, which we're not that interested in. Goals scored overall, the 3rd best goal scoring in the league with 70. Cross completion, 9th. That's fallen a little bit, but we've sort of updated our game a little bit more. Cross completion overall is 8th. Goals from corners is joint 8th with 5. Look at that, Everton from 12 goals from corners. Goals from direct free kicks. Right, I mean, come on now. Seriously, game? 2 goals scored from a free kick in the entire season. What is this madness? Look at the championship. How many have they had? Oh, look, loads. It's a joke. That really is something that they need to patch because it's getting silly now. Whatever league you play in, there's no free kicks scored. It's a shame. Indirect free kicks, though, 7. Great stuff. Pass completion, nearly as high as Man United's. Passes completed, but way up there as well. Shots on target, level with Arsenal and Everton, which is what I like to see. Shots on target overall. Chelsea still have more, though. Fouls against. Still drawing a decent number of fouls. Dribbles per game, 26, which is nearly as high as the best. Defending, we've obviously got the 3rd best defence in the league with 34 goals conceded in 38 matches, which isn't bad. Goals conceded from corners, still only 2, whereas Blackburn with just so many. Huddersfield and Stoke, the only teams that conceded free kicks this year. Clean sheets, we already saw that one really in the last game. Not last game, you know what I mean. Fouls made, still, well, we're certainly a lot less than Chelsea still, that dirty bunch. Tackles 1, 2nd best, which is great. Average attendance by capacity, still doing the best, and that with 24,000 average attendance, which is very, very good, I have to say. 10 sellouts, which is glorious. Net transfer spend, of course, ours is pretty damn high, but look at this. Still, we've come 2nd and won the Europa League, despite only spending 61 million on wages. I mean, I still think that by the time we finish this save, we'll probably still not be spending more than 100 million. I doubt that very, very much. So there we go. And we'll still probably be predicted quite low finishes, but that's just how it is. We're now considered rich again, I suppose, because of all that. Anyway, let's go and take a look at the players. So I thought the first thing we could do is just take a look at the goalkeeper, because he's the only goalkeeper we've got, so it's worth taking a little look at the stats-wise. So, let's just ignore the Football Manager Cup. 78% shot save ratio, which is much, much more like it. And a decent number of them held as well. You know, he's done okay. 53 held, 42 parried, 15 clean sheets, 31 conceded in 36 appearances is very, very good, to be honest. He's getting a clean sheet nearly every other game. 78% save completion is what I like to see, though. That's what I'm really interested in overall. Decent pass completion as well, actually. A few key passes in there too. 25 passes per game. He does get the ball quite a lot, to be fair to him, but there's not really much more I can say about that. Galfrascoli is going to be the man that I think takes us till the end of this save. I really do, because I just think that he is such a good keeper, and he's probably going to get even better. I'd love for him to have a season where he has over 80% save completion. I really, really would. Let's take a look at centre-backs. Right then, centre-backs. So, the main ones we're going to be looking out for this year, I don't know where we can actually see number of appearances. I assume that's on here somewhere. It better be. There we go, apps. So, Gomez, Achabar, Planic, Anderson, and Bonny. We can kind of count all of those, although I'm not going to really pay much attention to Achabar, really, because he's played in so many different positions for us this year. It's difficult to know where. He's played 20 times at left-back, actually, and 14 at right, so maybe we can start to look at him. But again, I like to think of him more as a sort of defensive midfielder, so we'll look at him with a slightly easier light, so to speak. So goals, Bonny's got 2, which is nice to see. We've got some goals there. Which is always good. Now, pass completion, Achabar does well, but Gomez and Planic are high. Achabar, Bonny could do with a little bit higher on his pass completion, but I still think, because he's young, there's a lot more to come from this lad. And if you look at the tackles won, you know, 89% of his tackles have been won from quite a few appearances, to be honest. So I think there's a lot to be said about him getting some more game time next year. Anderson, of course, will be leaving because I just don't know if he's quite good enough for this team anymore. Gomez wins, you know, he wins over 80, which is fine. As long as they get over 80 on every aspect, and they all have, which is fine by me. That's what I'm mostly interested in that situation, is that. Because bear in mind, Achabar, we can't really, because he's a left back, so we'll look at him in those situations rather than these ones. Pass completion is all good. Tackles per game, Stoyle, although not really that important. Bonny, Planic, Gomez, they're all above. You know, Gomez is up there, but he does do some other things too, so I think we can be okay with that one, really. Average ratings overall. Gomez has the best average ratings in his games. Bonny hasn't, interestingly, but I'd like to think over a full year of him playing a bit more, he might get a bit of a better rating. You know, he often gets played in rotated teams, so I think that's a bit of an unfair stat on his one. As for headers won, though, Gomez 84, Anderson 82, Bonny 83, and that's what I like to see. Planic, though, only 75, and I think that's where he really does fall down. And I think getting Bonny in instead of him will give us a much more strong situation there. And I think having a Gomez and Bonny centre-back partnership is kind of what I'm looking towards, but I do want to get us a new left-back really, really desperately this year. That's what I'm really looking to strengthen, is that left-back spot. I might just go out and try and spend as much as I can there to get the best player physically possible. Key headers, Gomez with 138. He may not win. Actually, he's fairly decent in the air too, and that's sort of really starting to show now. Key passes as well. He definitely is far better than the other players in that position as well. Planic particularly, considering he's got good passing, he just never really stepped up this year for us. Mistakes, Gomez does make quite a few of those though, and that is a real problem. Whereas Bonny, I don't know, I think he'd be, you know, there'd be a few mistakes in there, but we do play quite a high line and a lot of pressing as well. So Bonny doesn't complete as many passes. Interceptions, I look at 731 interceptions this year from Brian Gomez. His anticipation is outrageous. So yeah, I'm actually fairly pleased with that. So what we're looking at is centre-back. I might bring in another centre-back if I can do that. Maybe a really strong one. I don't want to hamper Christian Bony's growth because I feel like he could grow into an absolute monstrous one. But I do feel like we need another backup player, or certainly maybe even a starter with Bony as the rotation option as we move on to someone like Anderson. That way we've then got, you know, a Gomez and whoever else we bring in, then we've got Pjanic and Bony as backups to that. Might be such that way we've got 4 centre-backs that I could be pretty pleased with. So I think that's what I might do in the summer anyway. Let's take a little look at left-backs now, or right-backs. Right, so we've got mistakes leading to goals here. Mankio's made himself a few, and so has Njuku, but that's not really a huge shock, to be honest, is it? So tackles 1, that's quite important. Cresswell we can ignore. Granger, he's done okay in the few games he has played for us, to be fair. And Njuku's done well. Interestingly, all of those guys have done better than the actual ones, Mankio and Achibar, though they're both still above 80. So I do want to start looking. The defence is such an important area to strengthen. Left back is paramount. That is the number one thing on my order, though. I'm thinking a backup right back as well for Mankio, like a decent backup right back that could slowly overtake him perhaps throughout the season. And then another centre back is kind of where we're looking for at this moment in time. Cross completion, though, is quite an important feature of our fullbacks. And Mankio, 18, and a little bit less on the other side from Achibar because he's not really designed that way. And I think maybe getting a better left back as well will help the likes of Isla and Baltam out in the sense that they'll then have slightly more support up there and we can get more chances on that side because our cross completion will be so much higher. And I think that's a real important factor when you look at it. As for tackles per game, Mankio's still 6th though, which is astonishingly good. And Cresswell, as you can see, when he did play, actually did do very well in those areas too. But I just don't think he's quite got the legs anymore to do that. Mankio has a few less dribbles than the likes of Cresswell, but he still does a job. Mankio is still a monstrous player in those areas. He really is. Looking at his average rating is 7.52 in that area. Achibar with a 7.26 as well, but you can just sort of see everyone else is below 7, and that's important to note because they just shouldn't be. So I think left back slot is so important for us this year. Cresswell, we won quite a few games with him in the team, but again, that would have been from rotation and stuff. But then again, that's interesting, actually. I don't really recall playing him that many games, to be honest. Maybe that's other games? I don't know. Headers 1. Granger's actually won a fair amount of headers, which is something that is quite noticeable. Mankio quite low on that one, as is Achibar. Very, very low. And it's nice to see that the likes of Granger can actually come in and win some headers there. Similar to what Cresswell did when he used to play for us, although his headers 1 has been pretty low as well. Key headers, not really an important factor for our left backs and right backs. Key passes, though, it's great to see them both pretty much sharing that, although you feel like Mankio might have overtook with a few more matches. Still very good to see both of them completing more than 100 key passes. Mistakes, overall, Mankio made a few less mistakes, but I think that comes from his experience, or you'd like to think so anyway. He also made some more interceptions than him, and completed slightly more passes per game, won a few extra headers, and had a few less shots per 90 minutes, which is interesting. I don't think he's had a shot on target all season. So just looking at the sort of the left and right back situation here, I think left back is important. Right back is a sort of secondary issue because we do still have Mankio, but centre back is another area. So I want to maybe bring in 3 defenders if I can, but at least 2, I think. So let's take a look at centre midfield. Right, so centre midfielders, obviously, it depends on what type of position because we've got attack that counts for attacking mids as well. So tackles 1, Diallo 87 is very, very good. Farmer 83, which is at least something. And of course, Achibar with 80. Now, Masek is only 78, and I would like to see that be a little bit higher because he's very good at that type of thing. So maybe a little bit more of that would be good from him. Key tackles. One thing I would say, though, is Achibar with 16 key tackles. Though, again, because he's playing at left back a lot of the time, that might be a bit skewed. But Farmer still made a few key tackles, which is good. Masek's grabbed himself a key tackle as well in there. As for goals, we can ignore those two. Carlos and Baltam, they've done okay, but Baltam, of course, has played on the wing a fair amount this year as well as through the middle, so that's kind of irrelevant as well. Pass completion, though, is an area I'm very curious about. It's nice to see that Achibar, Farmer, Ramsalar, Masek and Diallo all above 80. Baltam a little bit lower at 78, but still not gloriously low. I'd like him to get a little bit better at that, considering he's got decent passing and vision. So I think, but then again, I think that might be because he's played a lot out on the wing, and obviously, you know, some of his crosses and he tends to lose the ball a bit more out there. I think had he played in the centre all season, there would be more of a chance of him getting a higher one. So that's slightly skewed. All above 80 for those guys, though, which is nice to see. Tackles per game. Farmer wins a lot more tackles when he plays, and you can sort of understand why I'd prefer him over to pretty much anyone else. Dribbles per game. Masak, and that's not surprising, 4.5. He picks the ball up in that middle and he can just drive forward with it, and that is a really useful feature in this team because it provides that. it means that he doesn't have to pass the ball into Carlos to get round the player. He can take the man on himself. Then he's got a 2-on-1 with the centre-back with Carlos, and that's why I think there's so many good little 1-2s around the area, because he can ghost past people. That's great to see as well. Shots on target. Shane Williams has actually got a very good shots on target ratio, but a lot of them have done okay, except for the likes of Achabar, which is a shame. Average rating overall, Masek with a 7.87, which is an astonishing average rating overall. And I think he's probably might win player of the season for us for that alone, perhaps. He's played a lot of minutes as well. Well, actually no, 2,600 isn't super loads. Games won, Baltam and Achabar, interestingly, but all relatively above 60 for the players that are playing most. Headers won. Diallo wins a decent number of headers, although he's played a decent amount, actually. So that's interesting to know. Key headers, of course. Fabio, well, we can't really count Fabio here, but Baltam and Achabar have done okay in those areas as well. Farmer's won a few despite being incredibly short, but Carlos, I'd like to see him win a few more because he's not super short. Key passes, though, Baltam with 286 key passes, Carlos with 253, and Baltam really has stepped it up there. I think from playing in some of the Europa League games, he's probably got a fair amount of them in that position as well. Mistakes-wise, well, I mean, Carlos has made a few, but it's not really a huge area of mistakes. No one's really standing out as being super mistake-ridden at this point. Achabar, maybe a few, but then again, of course, he's playing at left and right back more often. Carlos and Baltam sharing that one. Such a Masek has the same. Farmer's made a few less mistakes, which is very, very pleasant to see. Interceptions, Farmer again has made a load of those. Achabar has made, of course, a load of those as well, which is fine. Headers won. Baltam actually won a decent number of headers, which is interesting, but I think that's because playing as that advanced forward and getting in there at the end has made a huge difference for him, and I'm actually very happy with our midfielders, because in that centre area, we've got Farmer, we've got Diallo that can play in behind him as well. We've also got, in the centre, we've got Masek, we've got Achabar can play that, as can Diallo. So that's a decent number of players in those areas as well. And then ahead of them, we've got Carlos, we've got Shane Williams, we can play Baltam there as well, although I would like to see maybe a shadow striker if we can get big money for Carlos and push that all towards a shadow striker type of player. Or move Carlos on and buy an incredibly good deep lying forward and put Fabio as the shadow striker. That's the other option that I'm thinking about doing, maybe. Just depends on what's available in the summer. So let's take a little look at wingers. Apologies, this one might be slightly quicker because I'm trying to narrow it down a little bit so we don't have the episodes being so long, but at the same time we can still get a decent number of information out. Because again, we're looking at the same stats every time because there's not anything new that I can really take a look at. So yeah, we'll move on to the wingers now. Right, so really with the wingers, we're looking at Everton, Isla, Baltam and Salvi. Those are the only ones that really count for me at this point. So we're going to jump straight and look at the tackles one from those guys because, it's interesting to see. Baltam, okay, his is 74, which is nice. Salvi 63, Isla 59, and Everton. This is the thing. Salvi has a 13% higher tackles won ratio than Everton, and I think that means that he does a lot more getting back as well as getting forward, and I think that's why I prefer him overall. He's just better in every way. He even has a key tackle to his name, which none of the others in those positions do. But when you look at the goals scored alone, 13 goals scored this year. Isla with 9, Baltam with 8, and Everton with 2. Obviously he didn't play a lot, but still I feel like if he keeps complaining we may have to move him on in the summer just because he will complain. So what we'll do is we'll then use that money to bring in another young player to fill in as the backup to Alessandro Salvi. That's the plan anyway. Pass completion, so Baltam was 78 again, Salvi was 78, Ice 76, and Everton reverse those, 77 and 76, all fairly solid. I'm fairly happy. They're all above 75, which is the sort of key thing here. When you look at the tackles won as well, Isla with 2.93. Interestingly, Salvi's a little bit lower there, but he does win more key tackles, clearly, and he's better at winning the tackles that he does win. Dribbles per game, however, Salvi and Everton are off the charts. Isla isn't bad either, and neither is Baltam, but Baltam, again, of course, would have been slightly lower because he's played in the middle a few times. Shots on target, Isla is very, very good at getting his shots on target, which is why he's scored a fair number of goals from a lot less games. So there is that feature of the game for us as well. He's scored a lot more goals than Baltam in a lot less games. Average rating overall, Salvi with a 7.87 as well. What a season that lad has had. He's genuinely been the standout star this year. Oh, cross completion, very important. Everton, fair enough, it's 21. Salvi 15, Baltam 13, and Isla 13. I could do with those guys just boosting those numbers a little bit more next year. But I'm fairly happy with the wingers, in all honesty. Games won, Cresswell doesn't really count. Isla, well, 70%, but Baltam's right up there. Salvi's up there too. They're above 65, which is the key thing here. Headers one is not hugely important to me. Baltam obviously will dominate that one. Salvi is not that great in the air. That's what I would say. Although I think he did score a goal with a header at some point this season, which was quite interesting. Headers one, Baltam again 13, Salvi only 11, but still it's a few headers one. Mistakes, Baltam's made the most mistakes though. Salvi's made a few less. Isla again even less than that, and Everton didn't get enough chances to make the mistakes, I think, so that's not really that important for me. They're not making like glaringly large numbers of mistakes, and no, only he made a mistake leading to a goal, and that might have been when he was playing in the middle anyway. Passes completed. His is obviously going to be higher because of his middle play, but Everton again slightly lower there. Salvi dominating again. When you look at interceptions as well, Bautam obviously made more because again playing in the middle, but it's good to see Salvi making some as well. Headers one again, not that important. But then what I'm thinking, when you actually look at our midfield, we've got on the left hand side Bautam and Isla can interchange at will. On the right hand side, in theory, Everton and Salvi can interchange at will. And I might hang on to Everton if I can convince him to stay, but if he wants to go, then we might not have an option but to replace him with someone younger and with a bit more potential maybe, to sort of come in as a backup to Salvi so that he doesn't have to play all the time, but at the same time we're not going to have complaints in the squad. So finally we're going to take a little look at strikers, which is a bit of a narrow section, I must say. So when it comes to strikers, it's Mateus, Bishop, Fabio and Kirk. They're the only registered strikers in the team these days. So yeah. Tackles one, interestingly, Fabio 56. Very, very important for a deep line forward to be getting in there and making those tackles. Although, of course, he did play slightly deeper at times. But it's interesting to see that Mateus at least had the highest of the remaining players, which is something of note anyway. Goals scored by the other players, 44 for Fabio. 7 goals in 8 starts for Mateus isn't too bad, although I'd like to see a bit more from him next year, and that might well be the case. Kirk only started 2 games and scored 2 goals. Nothing from Bishop this year at all. Was a bit of a waste, but he's wanted by someone, so that might be interesting. Who's he wanted by? By Bournemouth. So if we can move him on for some money, that might not be such a bad idea to do, frankly. Pass completion, Adam Kirk 87, which is decent. Fabio's is the lowest, but then he has played a lot more time on the pitch, has a much higher tackles one ratio, and dribbles for Fabio is very, very solid. And I think that's important that Mateus gets better at that. At least he's number 2 for those, because Fabio does have a knack of dribbling past people and getting those shots away, and it's a really important part of his game. Shots on target, 58% for Fabio, 47% for Mateus isn't too bad. I'd like to see it above 50 though, if we could, and Fabio 58 is much more nice. Average rating overall is a 7.81 for Fabio, which is superb, but at least Mateus has averaged above a 7, quite well above a 7, which is nice. It proves that he's got some talent when he does get a chance to play, so there is obviously that. Games won, of course, we won more with Adam Kirk, but that's generally because we're playing weakened sides against weakened teams. But Fabio is still 67%. He wins a lot more headers than everyone else, and I think that's an area Mateus is going to have to get better at, though we do generally specialise in the low crosses. As you can see, 65 key headers to 6, although obviously a lot less game time. Key passes though, I have to say, Mateus 73 key passes in not that many starts is not bad, and I think that might be an area where we could really benefit from maybe him linking up with people a lot more, because he does seem to do a decent job in those areas. Completes a lot more passes than Fabio does per 90 minutes on the pitch. Wins a lot less headers though, so it's very noticeable there. You know, Mateus is very good on the ground, he links up the play nicely, whereas Fabio is more of a brutish type of player, and he can link up the play as much as the next player, but he's better in the air, whereas Mateus is better when the ball is on the floor. So that's interesting to note, if nothing else. So what I've really learnt from this last little look at things is that centre-back, I want ourselves a first-team one if we can, but left-back is the main priority. A backup right-back wouldn't go amiss as well. As for the midfielders, a backup right-sided player if we don't keep hold of Everton, and maybe do the old switcheroo with the Carlos situation to try and sort that one out as well. The other thing is maybe look for another striker. I'm really not sure at this point. Maybe look for a really good striker and push Fabio back as the shadow striker maybe, and move Carlos on in that sense. It's a very difficult summer because we've got a lot of money. Well, we've got a decent number of money to spend, but we also know that with moving the right players on, we could have an even bigger budget to spend in the right areas. So it's going to be a very difficult summer, guys. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little look at the squad and all that. I hope some of the stats available to you have been able to form your own opinions on things as well. Obviously, it's not. I'm trying not to do them like 40 minutes long because that's just getting excessive at that point, and it's just me babbling. I want to try and condense it down as much as I can without glossing over things too much, basically. So if you have enjoyed it, of course, drop a like on the video. That'd be superb. And if you'd like to even more on that, and you haven't already, and you're watching this for some reason, then do subscribe, of course. And I'll join you guys for tomorrow's episode where we'll be doing all kinds of transfer goodies. That's going to be a very fun window, but it's going to be a very stressful one, I can sense, because there's going to be the vultures circling around our best players, I think. So I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.